All right, picture this. It's the 1940s, and we're right in the thick of World War II. You're standing in this tense, smoke-filled military war room. On the table in front of you are reports from heavy bomber aircraft sent on these incredibly dangerous missions over Germany. And the reality of these missions, it's grim. While some aircraft return safely to base, a ton of others are shot down by enemy fire and never come back. The military command is absolutely desperate to reduce these casualties and save lives.
So imagine you're the military strategist tasked with answering this high-stakes, literal life-or-death question. Where exactly should we add extra armor to protect future aircraft? You know you've got limited resources. You can't just wrap the entire plane in heavy steel because it'd be way too heavy to even take off. You need to be precise, and to do that, you've got to rely on the data.
To solve this engineering puzzle, researchers did what, well, any of us would do. They looked at the data they had. Out of every 100 planes sent out, they compared the 60 aircraft that actually made it back safely against the 40 that were shot down and lost forever. Now, because they obviously couldn't physically inspect planes sitting at the bottom of the ocean or behind enemy lines, they could only study those 60 returning survivors.
So, they got to work. They carefully mapped out every single bullet hole on these returning survivors. And when they tallied up all that damage, a really clear pattern emerged. They noticed massive, highly concentrated damage on the wings, the tail, and the main body, the fuselage. But when they looked at the engines and the cockpit, almost nothing. Those areas were practically pristine, with very few hits.
Looking at this data, most people draw a perfectly logical, completely understandable, yet entirely wrong conclusion. They think, okay, the wings are getting hit the most, so let's put the extra armor on the wings. I mean, makes total sense, right? You'd want to reinforce the exact parts of the plane taking the heaviest beating. It sounds like a rock-solid plan.
But then, this brilliant statistician named Abraham Wald steps in. He looks at that exact same data, but instead of asking where the planes are being hit, he asks a paradigm-shifting question that completely flips the whole mystery on its head. He asks, which planes are missing? And by asking that one simple thing, Wald instantly changes the entire framing of the problem. He realizes they're only looking at half the story. Just think about the actual mechanics of it. If a plane gets hit in the wing, can it still fly? Yeah, usually. It limps back to base, and the researchers are there to record that damage. But what if a plane takes a fatal hit directly to the engine? The engine fails, the aircraft crashes, and it never returns. That means nobody is there to record that bullet hole. The data from those fatal hits is literally lost to the bottom of the ocean.
Let's look at the raw math behind this solution for a second. Imagine a simplified 10-plane data set. Planes 1 through 5 take wing hits, and they successfully return. Planes 6 through 10 take engine hits, and they crash. If researchers only observe the returning planes, numbers 1 through 5, they see 5 wing hits and 0 engine hits. They wrongly blame the wings for being the biggest problem, while entirely missing the fatal reality of the engine hits.
The twist here is completely counterintuitive, but it's pure genius. Those bullet holes aren't a map of a plane's weakness, they're actually a map of an aircraft's survival strength. Lots of bullet holes in one area simply mean that the aircraft can survive being hit there. Very few bullet holes mean that an aircraft usually does not survive being hit there. The military's initial gut reaction was exactly backward.
Following Wald's insight, the military completely changed their strategy. Instead of armoring the wings where there were tons of holes, they added armor to the pristine areas where there were almost none. The engines, the cockpit, the fuel system, because these were the truly vulnerable areas. The logic is so simple but so profound. They had to armor those spots because every single aircraft that got hit there never made it back to show off its scars.
So, this whole phenomenon actually has a name, and it's an absolutely crucial mental trap to understand. It's called survivorship bias. Basically, it happens when we base our conclusions only on the observations or people that survived a certain selection process, while completely ignoring those that didn't. By focusing only on the survivors, we create this highly distorted view of reality. Why? Because the missing cases, the ones that failed or crashed, often hold the most important information of all.
Let's bring this into the modern world, because this isn't just about World War II airplanes. We constantly trick ourselves with this in business. For example, we look at incredibly successful startup founders and we see that they work 100 hours a week. So we naturally conclude that extreme overwork guarantees success. But what are we missing? We're completely ignoring the thousands of failed startups whose founders also worked 100 hours a week, but still went bankrupt anyway.
Think about education too. If a university wants to figure out how to help students succeed, they'll usually go and interview the students who just graduated. And those successful grads might say something like, "Attending every single lecture really helped me." Sounds like great advice, right? But they completely ignore the silent data from the students who dropped out. What if the dropouts also attended every lecture but failed for entirely different reasons? By only asking the winners, the data is inherently flawed from the start.
We see this popping up constantly in investing and wealth creation, too. We eagerly buy books written by millionaires, hoping to copy their morning routines, their reading lists, their daily habits. We convince ourselves that waking up at 4 a.m. is the ultimate secret to wealth. What we forget is the massive, invisible graveyard of thousands of people who followed those exact same habits, worked just as hard, and never became millionaires. We're only seeing the planes that made it back.
And honestly, nowhere is this more prevalent today than on social media. Your timeline basically just feeds you the highly profitable survivors, the influencers making millions, traveling the world, living the dream. It's so easy to look at that and feel like being a creator is this easy, guaranteed career path. But the algorithm is actively masking the millions of creators who post every single day, put in the exact same amount of effort, and get absolutely zero traction or income.
So, to guard your own mind against this mental trap, you've got to actively arm yourself with 4 defense questions. Ask these every single time you look at data, read a success story, or analyze the trend. Number 1, who is actually included in this data set? Number 2, who is missing? Number 3, could the missing cases completely change my conclusion? And number 4, am I observing only the survivors or the successes? As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, kind of provocative thought. Survivorship bias is literally everywhere, subtly shaping the decisions we make about our careers, our investments, and our daily habits. So, look around you today. Look at the advice you take and the success stories you admire, and ask yourself this. What missing planes are you currently failing to see? What invisible data are you ignoring in your own life right now? Keep questioning what you see.